What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my in-depth analysis of Arcane Truthfire. I'm going to be going over the best users of this weapon and the kinds of build you can run with this weapon. So Arcane Truthfire is an Arcane Green Tome which gives you -1 special cooldown, and it's sort of turn if your HP is at or above 25%, then you get +6 attack buff and also the Order status. So it has got Attack Oath built in it, which is really good for the mobility, and you don't have to buff up the attack of your units because you have got the visible buff in it. And it also gives you +14 to all of your stats, just like Arcane Blood Gang. So it does help a lot of the older units function in the modern times. And if your HP is at or above 25%, then you're going to be getting true damage based on 15% of your attack, including on your AoE specials. And you also get 7 flat damage reduction on foes' first attacks, including the brave hits. So the 7 flat damage reduction can help some of the infantry and armor units when it comes to the tanking. And this weapon is really unique because it helps you not only get true damage on your AoE specials, but also gives you the special cooldown jump for it. So you get AoE cooldown -1 jump before your combat if you've got an AoE special. So this is reminiscent of momentum skill, and a lot of the other arcane weapons might have the special jump, but they don't really initially help you trigger your AoE special with this kind of special jump. So this allows you to AoE nuke much better, and you also need to look out for the special clause for the AoE specials if a special jump is to be applied for it. Like I said, the other special jumps don't really do this for you, and if you've got a regular offensive special, then it is going to be giving you -1 special cooldown jump before units first attack. So this is the special jump that we have also seen in Arcane Blood Gang, and keep in mind that if you're running an AoE special, then you're not going to be getting 2 special jumps. It explicitly states that. So the second clause is for the offensive specials like Glimmer, Iceberg, stuff like that. So this weapon can help a lot of green mages depending on the role that they're trying to go in. Of course, this does help you a lot in the AoE nuking, but if they're trying to do something else, then even then this weapon is going to be better than a lot of the other options. And Arcane Caliburnus is pretty much a year old, and Truthfire just blows it out of the water. Caliburnus was still a decent weapon because of its special charges in the combat and also the dull attack resistance, but Truthfire just gives you way more stats, helps you AoE nuke, also gives you the true damage, which is really helpful. And Caliburnus does have the guaranteed follow-up attack, which may help the slower mages, but I don't really think that you need guaranteed follow-up attack in the arcane weapons now that we have got skills like the Sly skills, Crux skills, and even free-to-play weapon refines of Dehorba and Gaul. So overall, Arcane Truthfire is going to be a lot better in pretty much any kind of situation compared to Arcane Caliburnus. So this is the weapon to give to your favorites, and I'm going to be ranking units based on their stat allocation. Keep in mind that this is a very AoE-centric weapon, so the attack of your unit does matter quite a lot, and also their resistance to trigger stuff like deploy skills. And there may be a trade-off with some units that already have decent preferred weapons, so depending on what kind of role you're trying to do, this weapon can still work out. And I'm going to be pointing out the units that already have a good preferred weapon that you shouldn't be giving this weapon to. There are a couple of units that are going to be having their weapon refines coming up, so if you don't want to give this arcane weapon to them and wait for the weapon refine, I'm also going to be pointing out. Infantry units have no shortage of tools. They've got Infantry Pulse, Time Pulse Echo. They also have easier access to the pulse effect, so they can get their AoE specials going a lot more easily. They also have Lagu's Friend, and they also have multiple skills that can give you the damage reduction piercing, and then null follow-up and tempo effect. Starting tier 1 off, I'm going to be having Rearmed Sonia in front, and maybe I should have put her in her own tier because she just does everything much better than any kind of other green mage. So because she's a Rearmed unit, she gets to keep Truthfire and also her preferred skill, which cannot be said for any other green mage here. So it really helps her because Beyond Witch Ray not only just gives you +8 to all of your stats, but it also has the special cooldown pulse at sort of turn. So this means that you can easily pre-charge your AoE specials, and it also has Null Guard built in, so it helps you loop your AoE specials even without Special Spiral. And if you're running something like a damaging special, then it means that she can even trigger it on her double. So she definitely deserves her place here in the first position. And then we have got Bastion with high attack and resistance. So if you're looking for a mage that can ploy and hit hard with AoE specials, then he can be the one from the 3-star 4-star pool. Young Lilina does have a preferred weapon, but it doesn't really mean much nowadays outside of AoE tanking, because the Dragon Vault's AoE damage reduction can help you in that, but outside of that it doesn't really help you much in nuking or even in tanking when it comes to the regular hits. And Limstella also has a preferred weapon, but they do prefer this weapon for nuking much better, and if you're going to be AoE nuking, then Limstella does have an advantage over a lot of the mages because they've got higher defense. Now, it might not seem much, but higher defense does mean that if you run Fatal Smoke, then you're going to be able to deny the Breath of Life healing more on your enemies. And that's why Emblem Sigurd can hit so hard with his AoE specials, because not only he has got Fatal Smoke 4 in his kit, but he also has really high defense. So having high defense when it comes to AoE nuking can actually help you in certain cases, and Limstella here does have the flexibility of also running a ploy skill or even going for the full tanking route with Lagu's Friend. And then we have got Tea Time Tail 2 as the most offensive green mage, and she is in the Grail pool. She does have 51 base attack and 53 speed, and her son Arthur is also going to be in tier 1, ending it off. It just happens that he ends up having more defense, and like I explained, having more defense can actually help you sometimes when you're going to be AoE nuking. Starting tier 2 off, I've got Orochi. She does have a weapon refine coming up, but it should be a year or more than a year at this rate, so you could still run this weapon for her until then. And she does have the spread of attack and resistance. And then we have got Julia, who does a 50 base attack and good enough resistance to make use of the ploy skills. Then we have got some fast mages with Regan having good attack stat, and even Rajat surprisingly here with her resplendent stats. Nino is extremely popular unit that many people built up, so if you're trying to update her, then this is going to be her best weapon for sure, and she does have the offensive stat spread to use it. Luin does have a desperation weapon, and in the past I did say that you want to have this weapon over Caliburnus, but this weapon, Truthfire, is way too good, and unfortunately Luin's desperation weapon is too old. He doesn't really have a lot of the things like Sed in his weapon refine, so you could let go of it and simply be an offensive mage. And if you really want to have the desperation effect, then the order status from this weapon can actually help you trigger Desperation 4 if you run it. And the other way is getting the desperation status from a Firestorm Dancer or Fallen Ursula if you have her. Deidre is not going to be having as much attack as Julia, but she does have a bit more resistance. And then we have got Original Sonia here. She can also nuke hard, but of course not to the degree of Rearmed Sonia in tier 1. Ending tier 2 off, I've got Soren, who is going to be having more speed than Sonia or Deidre, but less resistance than them, but also more resistance than a lot of the other faster mages in this tier. So he could run the ploy skill and also try and speed stack, so that's something he could do. And starting tier 3 off, I've got Summer Elise, who can still make use of her attack stat. Then we have got Lu, who didn't really get the best of the weapon refines. It's mainly a stat stacking weapon, and this weapon is overall going to be better. He could also try and do the same thing as Soren and try and use the ploy skills. Same for Spring Sharina, who's going to be having few stat differences to Lu. And then I've got Puddles, aka Young Azura here. And the reason why I've got her in tier 3 over Inigo is because she has got more attack. And obviously this is an AoE nuking weapon. She does keep her vanilla sing skill, and she does have enough resistance to resistance stack and run a ploy skill and give that kind of support at absolute max investment, which Inigo cannot really do, at least to that degree. And then ending off tier 3, I've got female Robin here, who does have a balanced stat spread, still does have a bit lower attack, and also Merrick, who ends up having even lower attack but does have a bit more HP. And there is Bowie in tier 4, who can also just stack his defense, but unfortunately he does have a pretty low attack stat, lower resistance, and also lower speed. Inigo doesn't have as much attack and resistance, unfortunately, and he's mainly going to be infantry pulse stacking, and even Young Azura can do it because her HP isn't really all that far off. And there are many green mages who do have good preferred skills and good enough preferred weapons, so they're all going to be listed here and they don't really want it much. And there are going to be a couple of units that are going to be getting a refine. Aspel should be getting it in a couple of months in January or February of 2025, so he's really near. And then Pent is going to be getting in mid 2025, and he does have a promising weapon with the pulse effect. so he might get a refine that is going to be much better than this. And then Luthier is going to be getting a weapon refine in July of 2025, so it depends on when Pent gets his refine. If he gets delayed a bit, then Luthier may happen in June, but I completely do understand many of the Luthier fans who may want to give this weapon to him because there's still 6 months to be waiting for this. But again, if you don't really have him at the highest priority, then you may wait and see what his refine does. Rearmed Sonia is an extremely unique case, and she doesn't need Emblem Marth or even Time Pulse Echo to pre-charge this AoE special, as she has got the -2 special pulse at sort of turn 1 with her Beyond Witchery, and after that she's got -1 pulse, so she can pretty much have this at 1 cooldown. And because of the special jump of Arcane Truthfire, she's immediately going to be able to trigger her AoE special. Emblem Sigurd could be run so that you can get the +1 movement and also some Canto, and the slot B is flexible, but I do like Speed Resistance Discord because you could try and overload Attune Micaiah with the Discord and the Exposure status so that she cleanses those two, and then you can have the Ploy status remaining. And this way she's also able to get resistance debuff on the enemy and also get true damage based on 15% of her resistance, which is really high, but it is not going to be added into the AoE specials. So you can run Occultist Strike if you're going to be getting it from Lilina, and you could even run Resonance. She has got the HP for it, but I do like this option on her. And a lot of times the optimal attune skill for many of these infantry mages is going to be Time Pulse Echo, but like I said, she does have advantages that no other green mage has got. So you could actually try and run Mercy Wing Echo so that you could drop in and AoE nuke enemies, and this can actually work out fine in Aether Raid's offense as well. Now, going to the regular green mages that don't have a modern preferred skill, you do have Nino, and you can get a lot of the fodder from Divine Codes like Attack Speed Finish 4, Magical Null Follow-Up, and Time Pulse 4, and also Flier. So you could basically have a 1 cooldown Flier, and then you could immediately trigger it because of the special jump of the weapon. If you do have the resources, then you could run Time Pulse Echo and run something else in the slot C, and that way you could try and optimize, but if you don't, then this is something you could do. And Magical Null Follow-Up is a pretty nice slot B skill, giving you the damage reduction piercing and also the full null follow-up, which does help a lot of the faster mages. And then we have got a build with Sly Mirror, which does come with Rearmed Lilina, and then you could run Special Spiral 4. It is the only slot B skill that you could run that can give you some true damage on your AoE specials, and Sly Mirror also gives you the true damage on your AoE specials, unlike the finish skills. So it could be run, and on many of these infantry mages you could run Emblem Marth so that you could have a 2 cooldown AoE special, and then you provide them with any kind of external pulse support and bring it down to 1 cooldown, and then immediately they're going to be able to trigger their AoE special because of the special jump. And I'm just showing this build with Time Pulse Echo if you really want to optimize a favorite and want them to be self-sufficient, and then you're not going to be needing the external pulse support. But for many of the players, instead of running Time Pulse Echo on your mage, you could simply give them the infantry pulse support or any pulse support, which so many of the units have got nowadays. And Sly Mirror also has the guaranteed follow-up attack, so it does help any of the slower mages. You could also try and run Verge of Death if you have a faster unit, so that way you could try and stack up the speed. And Infantry Pulse 4 is a slot C option that you could run if they have got the HP for it, and this way you're not going to be needing any kind of pulse support, and you also pulse down your allies. Occultist Strike could be run here, but keep in mind that it is not going to be giving the true damage to your AoE specials. And then we have got a slower mage that can try and run Crystalline Water. So you could run Sly Mirror, but the thing is that it's a player phase skill. So if you're running a mixed phase build or an enemy phase build, then Crystalline Water could be run. Not only you get the cleansing to your attack and resistance debuffs, but you also get the cleansing to panic. So you could stack up your resistance and run a ploy skill, which is going to be coming along with Rearmed Lilina, and you could get the full damage reduction piercing, the flat damage reduction, and the true damage based on your resistance with Lagoose Friend. So a unit with high resistance always has the option of going this route as well. Just keep in mind that you need to be running a 3 cooldown or higher offensive special like Glacies or Ether if you want it to work with Lagoose Friend. Flier is not going to be doing it with this weapon and Lagoose Friend. You could also run Slice, Sparrow, and Resonance 4 from Ninja Thjazi, and this does help you get a bit more true damage. So you're basically going to be getting 17 true damage per hit with these two skills, and it is mainly going to be a player phase skill. Resonance also gives you 60% damage reduction piercing, provided that you've got the HP. A lot of the mages at max investment are going to be having the HP. Oddspeed Wave can give you the full null follow-up, and it's a great effect with the visible buff of Arcane Truthfire that buffs up your attack. So that way you could have the full offensive buffs without really relying on any kind of ally. And you also can run Emblem Secret Ring so that you could get the +1 movement status, because for Slice to Sparrow's true damage, you need 2 visible status effects on yourself or 2 visible status penalties on the enemy. So for a lot of the faster mages, they don't have the option of running a ploy skill. So Emblem Secret is something you need to run, and then Truthfire gives you the order status. Time Pulse Echo's usage here is going to be mainly there to function against the Scowl. So it is going to be pre-charging Glimmer, and if you're facing any kind of Scowl enemy, then the special jump of Arcane Truthfire is going to be acting like anti-Scowl, and you're still going to be triggering Glimmer on your first attack, and then you're going to be able to trigger it again on the double attack if you survive. So it's not something you need, but again, it does help against a lot of these Scowl effects that are going around. And you could also try and run Attack Resistance Finish in the slot A for a Lagoose Friend build if your unit has got enough resistance to easily ploy with just the Stillwater Sacred Seal. So with this, you're going to be getting some healing out of the finish skill and also some true damage stacking up with Lagoose Friend. And for a mixed phase option, you could try and run the finish skill. Again, the Sly skills are just there for the player phase, and the tempo effect can be run with a Marth Emblem Flier, because Flier becomes a 1 cooldown special. Then you pre-charge it with Time Pulse Echo, and again, if you face any kind of Scowl effect, then the special jump is going to be offsetting that, and then you trigger Flier again on your double. The tempo skill does give you the Null Guard, which is essential for triggering Flier on the double attack after surviving, so it is going to be important, but you could also try and outsource it with Lumera and such, and Oddspeed Wave is going to be giving you the full null follow-up, and that is helpful when you're not running magical null follow-up in the slot B. Bonus Doubler Sacred Seal is going to be an option, and you could even run Bonus Doubler 4 in the slot A if you want to stat stack a lot, because you're going to be getting the visible buff with the weapon and then Oddspeed Wave. And speaking of Bonus Doubler, you could also run Close Bonus Doubler if you want to get the close counter effect, and Limstilla could definitely try and run this, and they do have enough defense to make use of Breath of Life 4 for the healing and then be tanky with Lagoose Friend. You can run Emblem Ike so that you can get even more unpierceable damage reduction against the ranged enemies, so that is going to be the emblem useful for tanking. And you definitely don't want to run Emblem Marth unless it is for Ether for the healing and tanking. And you could also try and run the ploy skill on Limstilla. They do have a couple of options. You can even go the AoE Nuking route, but this is the build that they can try and run a lot better than many of the mages. And then Soren can try and run the ploy skill and easily trigger the condition of the Slice of Sparrow to get the true damage and then stack it up with Resonance 4. So it's an option if you have enough resistance and also speed. And if you're running Puddles, then you could try and stack up a resistance and she can try and ploy the enemies. I mean, 57 resistance is not insanely high, but still, it is going to be able to ploy a lot of the enemies comfortably. And you could just have an AoE Dancer with a build like this. And you could also run Firestorm Dance for the Desperation support to your allies and the visible buffs that you could give out. And Inigo can try and stack up his HP for Infantry Pulse 4. And Mercy Wing Echo is going to be his attune skill that he could try and run. Flyers are the next best users of this because they've got a lot of options. They've got the flying mobility with Emblem Secret Ring. They've got the Crux skills, Soaring Echo, Resonance, Deadly Miasma, a lot of options. And in tier 1, I'm going to be having Brave Micaiah, who recently got a Resplendent version, and her preferred weapon has done fine until now, but Truthfire is just going to be better overall. It just gives you more effects, and she does have enough resistance and attack to AoE Nuke, to ploy, to run the Discord skill. She could also nuke with Glimmer or Iceberg, and because she has got a lot of resistance, she could try and dodge some of these Scowl effects that check for the resistance. And then we've got Spring Sonia, which might be a bit surprising because she does have a decent preferred weapon that gives you the 2-space warping, but the problem with it is that it doesn't really give her any kind of firepower for AoE nuking. And AoE Nuking nowadays has gotten a lot harder because of Breath of Life 4 and Divine Nectar of Hathran, but Truthfire does bring in some true damage to her with her attack, and then she could try and use her Harmonic button to pre-charge it, and also give that support to her Awakening and Shadows of Valentia allies. You're gonna be getting more firepower in exchange of losing some mobility. Her weapon also has the super quick and pulse effect built in, so you're pretty much gonna be relying on her Harmonic button to pre-charge your AoE special and trigger it on the first combat. But it's not like you're gonna be completely losing out on the mobility, as you do get the Order status, and you do have the option of running Emblem Celica, and there's also Soaring Echo of other flyers that you could make use of, and then Warp. And then we have got the noblest of nobles in Ferdinand, so he does have good offensive stat spread and he is a 4-star focus. And we also have Plagian Tharja, who is not a 4-star focus but a premium 5-star unit, and she does have the offenses for it. Summer Erica might also be a surprising pick for many people, but keep in mind that this is going to be a bit of a side grade, and because of the options that it brings her, it can help you in certain scenarios. So of course she does have Moonlight Bangalev, which is going to be giving her a lot of the true damage. And back when she came out, her playstyle was pretty much to use the impact skill, use the null guard of her slot B, and try and survive the first hit of the enemy, and then double and trigger your special and do a lot of damage, and then guard smoke the enemy. But the thing is that it is not going to be all that easier to survive against many of the threats now with the defense that she has got. And I wouldn't really have suggested this if we didn't have Resonance as a skill. So at max investment, this is something you could consider with Truthfire. The true damage from Truthfire and Resonance is almost going to be making up for the true damage from Moonlit Bangalev. In most cases, Moonlit Bangalev with a 2 cooldown special is going to be giving you more damage output against the 70 defense foes and above. So again, the use case is definitely there. And in the case of insane attack debuffs, Truthfire is going to be losing a bit of its true damage because it does scale off based on your own attack stat. But again, this does open up some options as you get the damage reduction piercing out of Resonance, and you're also able to run Emblem Marth as her emblem ring and run something like Luna and have a 1 cooldown special. And even her Moonlit Bangle could be run with a 2 cooldown special with all of the special jumping support that we've got. The true damage that you get out of Truthfire is going to be varying a bit less compared to the true damage that you get based on foes' defense, but still, you have to consider the attack debuffs that a lot of units can now do with the insane power creep. So I wouldn't say this is a complete upgrade, but it could be useful in some scenarios at this kind of max investment. And if we get a better Green Tome that's not arcane, then she's going to be able to keep her preferred skill at the same time. Her preferred skill does have Canto 1, but I don't think it's that big of a deal because now we have multiple ways of getting Canto consistently with the Mastery skill, with Emblem Sigurd, with Fortrace Echo that you could also run, and that's not even considering the other support options. In tier 2, I've got Flying Nino, who did get a Resplendent version, and she does have the speed for it. Spring Veronica actually did get a pretty decent weapon refine that can give out the order status to the other allies as well, but if you want a more offensive weapon for improving her own combat, then this could be an option, and she does have the attack for it. And you could also try and run this on Brattle Sanaki, who can just stack up her attack and resistance, not to the degree of Brave Micaiah, of course. Ending tier 2 off, I've got Summer Levitane, and starting tier 3, I've got Spring Camilla. Both of these units have got a bit more defense than a lot of the other mages, and again, higher defense can help you block off the enemy's healing from Breath of Life 4 with Fatal Smoke 4, so both of them can stack up the defense along with their attack. Summer Levitane does end up having a bit more attack and also a bit more resistance. And then we've got Dancer Reinhardt, so if you don't want to run a brave weapon, then this could be an option to nuke with an AoE special, and being a flying dancer, he does have many options. This is one of the builds that you can run on Brave Micaiah and similarly stat spread mages, so you could run Slimer and get the guaranteed follow-up attack out of it. You could also run Emblem Marth to have a 1 cooldown Iceberg, and then you could get the Canto out of Fortrace Echo, and you also have the damage reduction piercing with Resonance, and even more true damage, and you also get the exposure status with deploy, so you stack up even more true damage. So all of this can help you hit a lot harder, which isn't really possible with her preferred weapon. On any of the faster mages, you do have the option of stacking up their attack with Verge of Death and also get the cleansing, and speed resistance Fortress 4 is actually an interesting option for AoE nuking because the 7 true damage from it does get added into the AoE special. So if you want to maximize your offensive prowess, then this slot B could be run, and Emblem Celica is something that Spring Sonia can run because of her harmonic button, but any other mage is going to be preferring to run Emblem Marth and getting a pulse support from their ally to pre-charge their special. But again, because of the harmonic button of Sonia, you're going to be able to get the -2 cooldown out of it. So Blazing Wind is going to be a 1 cooldown special, then you immediately trigger that because of the special jump. Shadow Shift is also an option that these flying mages can run and use that to support their allies. And then something like Summoner Duels, where Spring Sonia may get used, it is a really good option for your openers and for positioning. If you're trying to nuke with Glimmer, then Emblem Secret could be run so that you could get the +1 movement and also fixed Canta too. So it is really good for the retreat, and you can run Flared Sparrow and Occultist Strike as a combo, even though pre-combat damage isn't really all that good anymore after Breath of Life 4 and Divine Nectar of Hathrin, but still it's an option if you don't really have other skills to be run on this kind of build. And a Crux skill could be an option for many of the flyers, because if you're not running Slice with Sparrow, then they don't get the guaranteed follow-up attack out of it, so the effect from Crux almost acts like a pseudo half-null follow-up. And Soaring Echo is an attune skill which many of the flyers can run. Just keep in mind to not run Deadly Miasma with it, as it comes along with Attuned Ivy, because then it is going to be clashing with Flared Sparrow. And Deadly Miasma is actually a pretty nice option on any kind of fast flyer if you're not running Flared Sparrow. So Slice of Sparrow does come in mind, as it can give you the true damage using the Order status and the +1 movement out of Emblem Secret Ring, and then you get the damage reduction piercing out of Resonance 4. I definitely do prefer having Resonance 4 over Occultist Strike on this kind of fast mage, and Deadly Miasma can help you in the player phase. Just ignore the visible buffs of the enemies, and then you could set up the haste terrain, which can override something like an Ice Tile of Brave Female Robin. Another build I want to showcase with Brave Micaiah is one using Crystalline Water and Speed Resistance Discord from Rearmed Marianne. So this way she's able to debuff the enemies even more. With the Discord skill, you're able to get the true damage based on 15% of your resistance, and you also have another way of supporting your allies. And you could try and run an AoE build with Emblem Marth. So it's going to be becoming a 2 cooldown AoE special, and then you're going to be needing to outsource a pulse effect from any kind of ally, and then you could get the ball rolling. Quicken Pulse Sacred Seal could also be run, but it does mean that you're going to be getting less stats that way. And you could also try and run Attack Speed Mastery in this slot A. So this is the build I was talking about with Summer Erica. So Resonance and Truthfire is going to be giving you the true damage, and then you get Canta 2 out of Attack Speed Mastery. At max investment, she exactly has 50 HP to make the full use out of Resonance, which is perfect. And if you're going to be stacking up attack and defense on Levitain and Camilla, then this is the build that you could try and run. Like I said, there is the option of running the Fortress skill for getting the true damage, and this way you could run Soaring Echo in your attune slot, so you could try and maximize on your AoE damage while denying the healing from Breath of Life by defense stacking and also running Fatal Smoke 4. Dancer Reinhardt can AoE nuke while supporting the allies with Firestorm Dance, and you can either choose to ploy the enemies or run Shadow Shift to support them. Cavaliers unfortunately have limited options, and in tier 1 I'm going to be having Letizia. She does have a decent preferred weapon, but all it does is debuff the enemy, and this weapon can do a lot more things and also help her AoE nuke with her attack stat. And again, she has got the defense and also resistance, so she could ploy the enemies, and at the same time she could also stack up her defense to be a bit more effective AoE nuke with Fatal Smoke 4 against the Breath of Life tanks. And then tier 2 is going to be starting off with Cecilia. Despite being such an old unit, she can try and stack up her attack and resistance. And then Halloween La Rochelle is going to be the more offensive Green Mage Cavalier with her speed. She can also AoE nuke with Verge of Death and her attack stat. Starting tier 3 off, I'm going to be having Valentine Mist, who can also nuke with her offenses, and then we have got Summer Sylvain, who doesn't really have as much attack stat, but does have a bit more speed, but the speed is not really all that insanely high. Valentine Lilina, just like Cecilia, is going to be trying to attack and resistance stack, but her resistance is not as high as Cecilia. Picnic Leo doesn't have the lowest attack stat, but he ends up having a bit more defense than a lot of the Cavaliers. Not a lot of skills to fully go the enemy phase route for the tanking, unfortunately. And then tier 4 is going to be having Thunderhead Olwyn, who doesn't have very high attack, and Guntra also doesn't have very high attack, but she doesn't even have a lot of resistance like you would think she would have. Her speed is going to be a bit lower as well, and Blizzard Tome unfortunately doesn't do a lot of things nowadays, and even her preferred skill isn't really all that great with all of the other debuffing skills that we've got. So this is an option that you could try and do at max investment, but keep in mind that an arcane weapon doesn't score the same as a preferred weapon in Arena. But her Arena scoring is nothing to write home about because she needs G-Dual Cavalry 4, which is already not a good start. Winterburnie's Weapon Refine is going to be in May of 2025, in 6 months from now, so you could try and wait and see what she gets. She may end up getting the Paranoia effect from Brave Burnie. Green Mage Cavaliers can try an AoE nuke by stacking up their attack and resistance with Crystalline Water, and then running the Ploy skill for the exposure status. They can also run Emblem Marth, but just like the Flyers, they're going to be needing an external pulse support to get the AoE going. And again, Quicken Pulse is going to be an option, but almost always you're going to be wanting to run some kind of skill to give you the extra stats. And Resonance can be there for getting the true damage only in the combat and also getting some damage reduction piercing. And it is one of their better options, but if you don't have it, then Occultist Strike could just be run. Their best attune skill is going to be Fortress Echo so that they can get some Canto. They don't really get the extra movement from Emblem Secret Ring like the Flyers, and most of the time you're going to be wanting to run Emblem Marth for the AoE nuking. Fortress Echo also gives you the +3 true damage on your AoE special, so at least that's something. And you could also try and stack up your offenses with Verge of Death, and again, Occultist Strike could be an option. Fatal Smoke is also one of the options for the Cavaliers, as they don't really have that many options for their slot C. So this could be run, or you could run Inside Attack Speed or Shadow Shift. And if you're running Inside Attack Speed, then Slice of Sparrow does become a pretty good option because you can get the true damage out of it in the player phase, and you do get the Insided status and also the Order status out of Truthfire. So you can activate it, and a lot of these mages are going to be having enough HP to run Resonance, and you could run Emblem Marth with 1 cooldown Luna, and then you could immediately trigger it. And if the enemy doesn't have a guard skill, and if you're able to live, then you could trigger Luna again on your double. If you're not running Slice of Sparrow and you want to get the full null follow-up, then Oddspeed Wave could be an option that you could run in the slot C. And again, Flared Sparrow and Occultist Strike combo is something that Flyers and Cavaliers could try and do, even though it's not the best. So if you don't have other options, then this could be run. And if you want to just fully run a unit with the base kit of Rearmed Lilina, then it is also possible to do on these Cavaliers with Iceberg as the special with Emblem Marth. And then Fortress Echo could be run for the Canto. You can also try and run Slimer with the combination of Resonance so that you can get some damage reduction piercing in the combat and also stack up the true damage. Unfortunately, there are not too many mixed phase options other than like Unity and Catch, and also Crystalline Water if you're trying to run a bulky Cavalier. But still, Slimer does give you a lot of resistance in the player phase, like +10 resistance, and also the much needed true damage. And on Letizia, just like Levitain, Camilla, and Limstella and other defense stacking mages, you could try and tailor her so that she could limit the healing of the enemy's Breath of Life by stacking up her defense. And I wish that we had Sly Sturdy because she would like it a lot more than Slimer for just stacking up the defense. But still, she has got the 3 movement as a Cavalier, and unfortunately not a lot of attune skills that you could try and run for her. And Fortress could be run so that you could get the +7 true damage on your AoE specials. Finally, we have got the Green Armor Mages. There's no AoE nuking to be done for them as they cannot really have the movement of the other movement types, and mainly they're going to be tanking. The order status from this weapon actually helps the armors quite a lot with their mobility, especially if you're not running Guidance 4. And I guess if you want to make them like Brave Edelgard, you will have to run Emblem Secret Ring for getting the extra movement, but they're going to be preferring to run Emblem Ike so that they can get some more unpierceable damage reduction. The 7 flat damage reduction can help them, and now we have got the twin saves as well, so that can also be something they could run. But unfortunately, being a range armor, they cannot have access to the defensive specials like Aegis to be run with Shield Fighter, which truly helps you tank against the modern threats. So that's why I don't think I could put any one of them in tier 1. Their far saving is simply not going to be on the level of other far saves. Still, I'm going to be having Winter Archer in tier 2. His defensive stat spread is best out of any kind of mage here. The extra resistance does help against the AoE specials if you support him with Breath of Life or Divine Nectar. Then we have got Valentine Alphonse in tier 3. He might not have as much bulk or attack as Archer, but still, he could try and function. In tier 4, I've got the fast far saves, which are not even that fast by the modern standards. And unfortunately, because they are fast, they do lack the raw bulk that is needed to tank a lot of the hits. They do have Clever Fighter as an option, but they're still going to be waiting for the speed variant of the twin far save skill. So if you're trying to run these slow far saves, which is Archer and Alphonse, then this kind of build could be run. So Armored Beacon or Armored Flow are going to be the main specials that you need, with Emblem Ike for stacking up even more unpierceable damage reduction. And then Twin Far Save is going to be helpful so that you could get the unpierceable damage reduction from Armored Beacon or Flow twice in a single run of combat. Keep in mind that you're not going to be getting the unpierceable damage reduction out of Emblem Ike Ring twice with a Twin Far Save skill. In slot, you could try and run Fire Flood Boost 3. That can give you the extra HP for the bulk, and also the guard effect, which could be helpful sometimes. Canny Fighter could be run for its bulk, the healing, and also the damage reduction, but all of it is going to be pierceable, unfortunately. And for a fast far save like Bruno or Henry, you could try and run Clever Fighter. That is going to be the best lobby skill you could run. It does make it harder for the enemy to follow up attack, and it also gives you the full on follow up while giving you the 10 flat damage reduction on foe's first attack. Unfortunately, they're not going to be having as much resistance for making use of Armored Flow, but still, that is going to be their best option. And Reposition Gate is, I guess, something you could also run to support your allies a bit better and get the Kanto. You really want to stack up as much speed as you possibly can on these units because they need every single point. And then you could also try and run Stronghold with Canny Fighter, as you could try and get the cleansing and the extra visible defense and resistance, which again does help you against the AoE specials. And if you stack it up with the Stone Terrain, then it can be really helpful. And Special Fighter could be run so that you could retaliate back with Armored Flow, and you could also get the guard effect out of it. Hardy Bearing is also an important sacred seal for these armor units, but the faster armors are simply not going to be having the headroom to give up on the speed stat. This is my final tier list of Arcane Truthfire. It's a general weapon that could be run on any kind of unit, be it fast or slow, but specializing in AoE Nuking is actually pretty unique and quite nice for an arcane weapon. I want to thank all of my team members for the constant support, and you could click the link on the screen right now to check out my breakdown of this Rearmed banner. And make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because I wish Rip sub boxes were about as functional as this weapon on all Sonias. So with that, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.